We have lots to discuss in today's video, including the latest trade talk around the NHL. Today's trade rumors focusing on teams like the Ottawa Senators, Buffalo Sabres, Vancouver Canucks, Montreal Canadiens, and the New Jersey Devils. Plus, we have updates from the NHL waiver wire. We had Daniel Sprong on waivers yesterday. We'll find out if he was claimed or if he can be reassigned to the minor leagues. Plus, we have other news, including some key injury updates around the NHL, as well as some other updates on former Maple Leafs facing some taxation issues like John Tavares. We'll discuss all that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video. Let's kick things off first with an update from the NHL waiver wire. We had an interesting player on waivers yesterday with the Seattle Kraken placing forward Daniel Sprong on waivers. Unfortunately, he did not get picked up. I thought there might be a team give him another chance. He's bounced around a lot in the last few years, especially a couple of teams this year. But he's not producing this year, so he's not getting the opportunity to go elsewhere. So he's been reassigned to the Kraken's AHL affiliate. But yeah, the last few years, like I said, he's had trouble finding and sticking in one place, but he typically was producing most places he was going, which was still somewhat surprising. But Sprong did not get picked up and back down to the AHL. Some key injury updates around the NHL. One team tonight that's kind of up against it is the Minnesota Wild. Now the Wild tonight are without some three of their top six defensemen, with Brock Faber, Jonas Brodin, and Captain Jared Spurgeon all out. Kaprizov is still out. They signed Dylan Ferguson the other day because of goaltending issues, and Jesper Wallstedt is hurt. Now Fleury is sick. Now, so Gustafsson was going to get the start tonight. It wasn't clear if Fleury could back up. If he couldn't back up, they'd have to be relying on an e-bug emergency backup. So they're certainly facing their adversity and being put to the test here this evening. In New York, the Rangers are getting back Igor Shesterkin. He returns to the lineup tonight, and Arthur Kaliyev was making his Rangers debut. In Montreal, they're not playing tonight, but they'll be traveling to Washington for their next game, and Patrick Laine and David Savard both remain out of the lineup. I don't know that they're too far away. They've both been skating, which is promising, but not ready to return here this yet. And Vancouver, Sheelovs, the goalie, has been returned to the American Hockey League, so I suspect Demko's ready to return as well. Detroit, the other night against Ottawa, Alex Lyon left the game and was injured, so they've recalled Ville Husso from the minors, and Jeff Petrie also was placed on injured reserve, retroactive to January the 2nd. In Columbus, they're having a big game against the Kraken tonight. They recalled Owen Sillinger, who's going to be making his NHL debut at the age of 27. So usually once you get past 23, 24, you don't really see a ton of NHL players getting their chances and their shots. And for Sillinger, I'm sure it's a dream come true, even though he's in his later 20s. Goes to show that it's never too late. Hopefully he makes the most of that opportunity. And as I mentioned as well, some interesting updates in Toronto, not regarding the current players even, but of course most of you probably remember the news story. It's been a little while since we talked about it because it hasn't been any updates to it, but we know captain of the Leafs, John Tavares, has been in a battle for, a couple of years now with Canada Revenue Agency over taxes. Now, we know that a lot of Leaf contracts, and especially Tavares, but he's not alone here. A lot of Leaf players get the big signing bonus money, and they believe, based on the taxation rules, that those bonuses should have been taxed at 15%. And Tavares ended up getting reassessed and got a big tax bill saying they should have been taxed at a much higher rate. There's different rules around it, mainly because of the residency of where the player lives and all that. Just because you play for the Toronto Maple Leafs doesn't mean that's your home base, basically. Now, we found out today that two other former Maple Leafs are also in battles with the Canada Revenue Agency for the same sort of thing. Patrick Marleau and Jake Muzzin. And these are both from would have been from 2017, 2018 years. So it's been a while. Obviously, they can go back upwards of 7 years and reassess your tax bills. Patrick Marleau, I believe, he's contesting a $3.8 million tax bill from the 17-18 season, and Jake Muzzin is dealing with a $3.7 million one from 2020. So they're all with the highest, I believe, the tax courts, if I'm not mistaken, and they're battling here to try to get these overturned. That they feel like they should have been, more appropriately taxed, and that what CRA is saying is not the case. And if these battles are lost and these players end up having to pay these massive, hefty tax bills, that's really going to be a major issue for players in Canada getting signing bonus money, especially teams like Toronto, who are the ones that probably hand that out the most. That's going to cause problems for sure, because if players can't get that, they may want to go elsewhere where they're not going to have the tax problems, obviously, which would be south of the border for one of the American teams. So be curious to see how these situations play out. Of course, we know Team USA won gold at the World Junior Championships for the back-to-back years, second consecutive year here, just a few short days ago. Head coach David Carle, who's also the head coach for the University of Denver, who's had a ton of success at that program as well and has won multiple national championships, has confirmed that he will not be the coach for the World Junior team next year as they attempt to go from a back-to-back to a three-peat. Clearly, I think this guy has tons of NHL opportunities. He's going to be there at some point, there's no doubt. Whether or not he remains at the University of Denver longer, kind of holding out for what he feels is the best and the right opportunity, it's kind of hard to say. But yeah, I suspect that there's a good chance that he may be an NHL coach next year and won't be able to do that. Now, of course, I know some of the U.S. programs at some of the colleges and universities down there do pay their coaches handsomely. So it has to be a pretty lucrative deal in the right situation for some of those coaches to leave those opportunities as well. And considering what he's accomplished with his program at the University of Denver, I don't know what he gets paid there, but I suspect that it's a good amount. So we will see where things go on that front. Now, on the trade rumor section of the video, I want to start with the Philadelphia Flyers. We know the Flyers are a team like most of the Eastern Conference is still basically in the race. If you take a look at everybody who's technically considered for that last playoff spot, all the way down to the bottom, there's not a ton of points separating them. Even the Buffalo Sabres, who are currently dead last in the Eastern Conference, I believe are only 7 points out. I know they're playing Ottawa tonight. They're 6 points behind them, and I believe currently the Sens are 1 point out of the last playoff spot, although they do have games in hand and better winning percentage, but by points right now, they're a point out. So it's tightened up. Like the number of teams that have had their fortunes change and some of them have had their fortunes decrease has really changed the landscape there in the East. So certainly teams are going to probably be taking a little longer to become buyers and sellers. But the one team that's currently not in a playoff spot, and I guess a lot of people don't think they're going to get back in. They're going to stick to their program, and they're going to stick to their methods here. The Philadelphia Flyers. Beat writer Kevin Kurz, who writes for the Flyers for The Athletic, his opinion states that the Flyer that's the most likely to be dealt is Rasmus Ristolainen, right shot defenseman. Obviously good size, former Buffalo Sabre. He went through tons of rumors while he was in Buffalo, so it's kind of hard to say exactly where he goes, but a couple of teams that he's been linked to, according to these reports from Kurz, is Detroit and Winnipeg. Now, we know Winnipeg definitely would like to add on the right side of their blue line. They also probably want to add in the forward group too. Might be challenging to do both. Detroit, on the other hand, could certainly use some help on their blue line. Not to me, that's by far their Achilles heel, and the moving forward needs to be better. And the Ristolainen comes with some term. Obviously, there's some other players with the Flyers. It wouldn't be shocking to see them go, but it sounds like Scott Laughton, even though he's going to generate interest, that the Flyers are not real keen on trading him. To be honest, it sounds like they're quite content to keep him. Morgan Frost is a name that's been in and out of the rumor mill, so maybe he goes. We know Joel Farabee is a player that they seem to be open to getting a fresh start for. Maybe those moves wait for the offseason. It's kind of difficult to say. But according to Kurz, Ristolainen is a name to watch. Some of those teams, like I mentioned, Detroit, Winnipeg, are the ones to keep an eye on for where they may possibly find themselves going. Now, we know in the Montreal Canadiens organization that it seems to be a bit of a debate right now on what happens and what's going to go down for Jake Evans. He's having an excellent season, probably going to be a lot of his career highs this year. But at the same time, we know he's a pending UFA and he's generating interest because he's a really good bottom six player who can elevate if need be. So clearly, right now, we're getting word that there was Renaud Lavoie, I think back maybe in the past week, had said that there was mutual interest between Montreal and Evans's camp to negotiate an extension. Now, we've also seen today, Pierre Lebrun of TSN has said that, yes, there is some interest, there is some talks, but it's going to take a team-friendly, kind of a little bit of a haircut kind of contract for him to stay. Ken Hughes recently spoke to the media too, and he kind of indicated that they're not going to deviate from their plan. The fact that they're in the playoff mix is, they're happy with that. They're, content to see them doing well, but they understand they're still part of this rebuild, and they're not going to do anything crazy to kind of get completely off track here or, over-evaluate where they are. So for Evans, they have some prospects that could easily take that job, right? But they have to be comfortable that the prospect is ready and able to step in, and they have to be comfortable that Evans is not too valuable to lose. So basically, it sounds like if he's willing to take less than he can get on the open market, then maybe he remains in Montreal. But otherwise, a trade is fairly likely. Now, one name that comes up here that he's been linked to is the New Jersey Devils. Apparently, the Devils do have interest in Evans. Not a surprise. I think there's a few other teams out there that I can see making sense and being a good fit as well. Of course, we know New Jersey has definitely been in the market for a center iceman. So clearly, there's a fit there. And again, we'll see what the offer is. New Jersey, like Montreal, has a lot of interest in young player draft capital. So we'll see what they'll generate. But can Jake Evans stay in Montreal? Maybe, but it sounds like it's only if he's willing to take less money. So we'll see where things go on that front. And Buffalo, we know there's been lots of talk about them. So they're playing Ottawa tonight, and Ottawa home after a 9-game road trip that was broken up by Christmas, which lasted over a month, or at least it felt that way. Maybe it was less than that, but it was a long, long time. And the Sens are putting up a stinker tonight. But the Sabres, the names that have been getting the most attention is Dylan Cousins and Jack Quinn. Now on the Coming In Hot podcast today, Jason York, former Ottawa Senator, current podcaster, was talking about how there's been a lot of speculation that Jack Quinn could be available for trade, and he felt that he would be the perfect candidate to bring to Ottawa should they want to make a move. He's from the area. He played for the 67s, and he's got a really good shot, and we've seen that tonight. He scored 2 goals in the first period, of course, against his hometown team. So at this point, I think if the Sens can get him, it might be wise so we stop scoring goals on them. But he's had his fair share of struggles with Buffalo the last couple of years. Injuries has played a big role in that as well. And obviously, like I said, we'll see what happens. Like, they're division rivals, so it's not like one division team wants to help another division team get better. So I don't know what the likelihood of that would be, but Quinn's name has been out there, and we'll see where that goes. Ottawa might be a team that tries to get him, but I'm not sure how likely that is right now. Cousins, on the other hand, is they're getting lots of attention. I think the Sabres are going to be reluctant and kind of careful here, but one name that's come up as well when it comes to the Dylan Cousins saga here. According to Frank Cervelli, they went through some teams to watch on his program there on Daily Faceoff, and he said the Calgary Flames will be a very interesting team to watch. He feels will be a great fit. They've been really coveting a centerman, especially a right shot centerman, and I think they have some interesting pieces there that might be able to put together a package for the Sabres. Now, again, no guarantee that Cousins moves. We know that he's had his ups and downs the last year or two, and the Sabres don't want to see another top player end up leaving and having all the success of winning somewhere else like they've seen with Reinhart and Eichel and others. So, again, carefulness, but, Calgary might be a very interesting team to watch when it comes to Cousins if he is end up getting moved. Now in Vancouver, there's Pierre LeBrun talking about the Canucks as well on his TSN radio hit, talking about the fact he was asked point blank, do you think with Pettersson and Miller that one of them or both of them or what's the odds that one of them gets moved by the end of the year before the deadline? And he said he thought that the odds were pretty favorable that one of them does go. I've seen other insiders say that they seem to be hearing that there's more chatter around Miller out there. I think if the Canucks, like I've said before, I mean, I'm sure Vancouver would love the situation to go away, and that they'd love the situation to resolve itself and not have to trade one. They like both players, but at the same time, you can see how much of an impact it's had on the team, and both players have had their struggles too. And if players are going to stay and they can't get it sorted out and it's affecting them, then you might not have a choice but to pull the trigger and do a move here, even though it might be kind of against what you would have preferred to do. At the same time, though, it seems like JT Miller's name is out there more. You would think that, Pettersson being the drafted player that they spent tons of time developing, he's put up a 100-point season, he's young, big gap between ages there, much younger than Miller. You would think that he would be the guy that would stay, but it's kind of difficult to pinpoint what's going to happen here. But according to LeBron, he does feel that the odds of one of them getting traded is pretty good, and by the end of the season, one of them is not going to be a Canuck anymore. And we'll see. There's lots of interest out there. We've heard about the Blue Jackets. We've heard about the Bruins. We've heard about the Hurricanes. We've heard about the Rangers and Miller and that deal, maybe being something that's still in the works. So lots of talk. Hard to say. Like I said before, with the Four Nation Faceoff coming up in February, wouldn't be a complete shocker if some teams try to get ahead of the deadline because they're going to be shut down here for a while. You're probably not going to see that level of activity. I'm not sure if there's a roster freeze during that tournament or not, but even if there isn't, a team's being on hiatus before that tournament, I would suspect we wouldn't see a lot of activity, but there'll be probably lots of time for teams to talk for sure. So we'll see what happens, and we could see some activity here maybe between the end of January, early February before everything goes down. Let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.